In the last lesson, we learned how to get input from the user and how to convert data types. In this lesson, we are going to learn about conditional statements. Conditional statements allow your program to make decisions depending on a certain condition. The program can do one thing or the other. Think about your daily life. Every day, you make decisions based on conditions. For example, if it is raining, you take an umbrella. Otherwise, you do not. Or, if you have money, you buy food. Otherwise, you look for another option. That is exactly what conditional statements do in programming. They allow your program to check a condition and decide what to do based on whether the condition is true or false. Let's open the terminal and go into our working directory. Let's create a new file for this lesson. Let's name it conditions.py. Press I to switch to insert mode. Then let's type the codes. Press escape, then save. Let's run the file. You can see that it printed you are an adult. Now let me explain what happened. The if keyword tells Python to check a condition. The condition here is age greater than or equal to 18, which means is the value of age greater than or equal to 18. Since age is 20 and 20 is greater than or equal to 18, the condition is true. So Python executes the line inside the if block and prints you are an adult. Now notice two important things about the structure. The first is the colon at the end of the if line. That colon is required. If you forget it, Python will give you an error. The second is the indentation, that is the space at the beginning of the print line. In Python, indentation is not just for decoration. It is how Python knows which lines belong inside the if block. Any line that is indented under the if statement is part of that if block. If it is not indented, Python treats it as outside the block. This is one of the most important rules in Python. We will talk more about indentation as we go. Now, what happens if the condition is false? Let me change the age to 15 and see what happens. Press escape and save. Then let's run. You can see that nothing was printed. That is because the condition age greater than or equal to 18 is now false, because 15 is not greater than or equal to 18. So Python skipped the print line entirely. But in most programs, when a condition is false, we want to do something else instead. That is where else comes in. The else keyword is used to define what happens when the if condition is false. Let's update the file. Press escape, then save. Let's run the file. You can see that it printed you are not yet an adult. Since the condition was false, Python skipped the if block and executed the else block instead. Now, let's change the age back to 20 and run again. You can see that it printed you are an adult again because now the condition is true. So the structure is simple. If the condition is true, the if block runs. If the condition is false, the else block runs. Only one of them will run. Both of them cannot run together. Now, if you notice, you will observe that we are only checking two possible outcomes. What if you have more than two possible outcomes, like 3 or 4 or even more? For example, what if you want to check multiple conditions? That is where elif comes in. Elif is a short for else if. Let me show you. Press escape, then save. Let's run the file. You can see that it printed grade A. Now, let me explain how Python checks these conditions. Python starts from the top and checks the first condition, which is score is greater than or equal to 70. The score is 75 and 75 is greater than or equal to 70. So this condition is true. Python executes that block and prints grade A. Because the first condition was true, Python stops there. It does not check the remaining elif or else blocks at all. This is important. Python checks condition from top to bottom and stops as soon as it finds one that is true. Let's try with a different score to see this in action. Let's change the score from 75 to 55. Then save. Let's run it. You can see that it printed grade C. Python checked score. Is it greater than or equal to 70? No, hence it is false. Then it moved to checking score if it's greater than or equal to 60. No, hence it is also false. Then it moves to checking if score is greater than or equal to 50. Yes, hence it is true. So it printed grade C and stopped. Now let's try with score is equal to 40. Let's save. Then Let's run the file. You can see that it printed grade F. All three conditions were false, and so Python ran the else block. Now, let's learn about the comparison operators that we use inside conditions. These are the operators that let you compare two values. Let's create a new file. Let's name it comparisinoperators.py. Press I to switch to the insert mode, and let's write some codes. Press escape and save. Let's run the file. You can see the results. Let me explain each one. X equals y means, is x equal to y? Since 10 is not equals to 20, so it prints false. X exclamation equals y means, is x not equals to y? Since 10 is not equals to 20, so it prints true. The next one is x is greater than y, which means, is x greater than y? Since 10 is not greater than 20, so it prints false. X less than y means, is x less than y? Since 10 is less than 20, so it prints true. X greater than or equal to y means, is x greater than or equal to y? Since 10 is not greater than or equal to 20, so it prints false. The last one is x less than or equal to y means, is x less than or equal to y? Since 10 is less than or equal to 20, so it prints true. Now, notice something important. The equality operator is equals equals. That is, two equal signs, not one. In Python, one equal sign is used for assigning a value to a variable, but two equal signs is used for comparing two values. This is a very common mistake for beginners. If you ever use single equals to instead of double equals to inside a condition, Python will give you an error. So always remember, comparison uses equals equals, not single equal. Now, let's learn about logical operators. Sometimes you need to check more than one condition at the same time. Logical operators allow you to combine multiple conditions. There are three logical operators in Python. They are AND, OR, and NOT. Let me explain each one. AND, it means both conditions must be true for the overall result to be true. Or means at least one condition must be true for the overall result to be true. Not means it reverses the result. If the condition is true, not makes it false. If the condition is false, not makes it true. Let me show you. Let's create a new file called logicaloperators.py. Press I to switch to insert mode. Then let's write some codes. Press escape and save. Let's run the file. You can see that it printed you can enter the venue. Both conditions are true. The age is 26, which is greater than 18, and the variable as ID is true. Since both are true, the AND condition is true. Now, let's change the variable as ID to false and see what happens. Let's save, then let's run. You can see that it printed you cannot enter the venue. Even though the age condition is still true, the as ID condition is now false. With AND, both conditions must be true. Since one of them is false, the overall condition is false and the else block runs. Now, let's try the OR operator and see how it works. Let's update the file. That means this person is not a student, he is a staff. So let's save. Let's run the file. You can see that it printed you have access to the library. Even though his student is false, but his staff is true. With or, only one condition needs to be true. Since his staff is true, the overall condition is true and access is granted. Now, let's put everything together and build a real interactive program. Let's build a program that asks the user for their score and tells them their grade and a message. Let's create a new file called gradechecker.py. Press I to switch to insert mode and let's type some codes. Press escape and save. Then Let's run the file. Let me enter a name and a score. You can see that the program displays a complete result. The name, the score, the grade, and a remark, all based on the score the user entered. This is a real program. Let me run it again with a different score to show that it responds differently. You can see that with a different score, it gives a different grade and a different remark. This is the power of conditional statements. The program makes different decisions based on the information it receives. Now, let's push everything to GitHub. Let's go and check GitHub. You can see that our new files have appeared in the repository.